What about my love? Wasn't it enough? Just let me know.
Nick Saban was talking about, I don't even know what they asked him about or what he, I don't know what the question really was, but he was told pretty much that obviously they didn't make the playoffs last year. We all know because we were reacting to the playoffs and we were looking at Tennessee, LSU, Alabama, Penn State, all of that. And pretty much told Nick Saban, look, Alabama would have been favored against all three teams in the playoffs last year. And Nick Saban said, well, why aren't we in the playoffs then? Or why weren't we? And gentlemen, does anybody know why?
It's because they lost 2 games.
Because you lost 2 games. Thank you. But yeah, so if you combine this with him like complaining about the schedule, in 2024 and all that, and he was complaining about that and everything right now, you know that he knows this, right? You know that's why he didn't make the playoffs. Even if he would have been favored in the games, you can't lose 2 games in a regular season and get in. In certain circumstances, you're just not going to get in
until next year.
So, maybe, but he knows this. I don't know why he's complaining about it. Maybe he's kind of setting himself up for like we should have been in, and maybe it wouldn't have been such a bloodbath with TCU and Georgia. But who knows? But it is a pretty silly comment to me.
And who made this comment?
Nick Saban.
Oh, he was saying this. Okay, I thought somebody else was telling him this.
Yeah, Nick Saban was saying, why aren't we in the playoffs? If we were going to be favored against all 3, we should have been in the playoffs. That's pretty much what he said.
Well, I mean, let's think about it here. Because I think towards the end of the season, we were saying out of all the teams that were there, TCU, Ohio State, Michigan, that they probably would have fared well against those teams because of TCU already losing to Kansas State, Ohio State and Michigan barely winning against Penn State and Maryland, respectively.
Hey, don't you disrespect Maryland?
I'm not disrespecting them. I'm just saying you have to think about it like that. So when we're talking about, if he's telling people that he might have been favored against 3 of those teams, and we know which team that he's left out was Georgia.
I don't know if he would have been favored versus Ohio State. We saw what they did versus Georgia themselves. Like the best offense versus the best defense.
I mean, that's
the thing.
Yeah, that's a good reason.
That offense in Ohio State was loaded with C.J. Stroud, Marvin Harrison. I don't want to. I know I'm gonna botch the wide out 2 name. Idoku?
Emeka Egbuka.
Anyways. Like that receiving core, and you had CJ Stroud there. Sadly, the injuries got to that running back core in Ohio State as well, but that offense was better than the Alabama offense with Bryce Young and Tajay Spear. Oh my goodness. I was looking stuff up about him, my bad.
Jahmyr
Gibbs, thank you. Jahmyr Gibbs. Like, I would take Ohio State's offense. And then the defense I would lean more towards Alabama, but we saw what Ohio State did versus the number 1 defense. They had a shootout with them. So I don't know about Ohio State. TCU, yes, I'll give you that.
Yeah, I think they would have. I mean, thinking back upon it, they would have beat TCU for sure. I think at this point,
Michigan's a toss-up because they did beat Ohio State, and they did win the Big Ten. To be fair, to Michigan, but it coming down to the line, who I trust more.
But they lost against TCU, so if the logic is Alabama beat TCU, then they would also beat Michigan, right?
Completely different game though. TCU could have matched up more better versus Michigan. I think I will give the edge to Saban because I trust the quarterback play of Bryce Young more than I do JJ McCarthy. But like, it's a completely different ballgame.
I don't know. I'm just using your logic against.
I know what you're doing.
Devil's advocate. I mean, I'd be willing. I mean, you do make a good point on Ohio State, so I'll pull back on that one. I think that would be a good game. Georgia and Ohio State and Alabama. I mean, the sea of red that would be in the college football playoff. But, yeah. So, what you think?
No, I mean,
I wish I would have heard that. My bad. I got a work call.
Are you good?
I mean, I can somewhat agree because even when we were doing the live show, we kept saying, because this was even when TCU lost against Kansas State in the championship game, we were saying they're going to put number 2 out. They're going to put a number 2 loss to Alabama or a 2-loss Alabama in the playoffs in the 4th seed.
I thought they were too, Sora. I'm with you
no,
on that.
I mean, that's what we were all saying on the show. So, I mean, I can definitely see, them beating Michigan, them beating TCU. I mean, we saw what Georgia did. I do think they would beat Michigan because let's not forget McCarthy threw 2 pick sixes. So now imagine, what you've got with Eli Ricks, Brian Branch, Jordan Battle now in the secondary. Will Anderson coming off the edge.
A better defense.
Byron Young coming off the line as well.
Yeah.
Why can I not remember that one linebacker's name? The one linebacker that went to the Texans. Anyways, you got that guy as well. Toto? No.
Henry Toto.
It was Toto. Okay. I thought Toto was last year. So, I mean, even then, like, that defense wasn't nothing to scoff at. I would also see probably another shootout between Alabama and Ohio State. So, while I do agree, yes, they probably could have been favored in a lot of those games. And more than likely, depending on what seeding they were at. So, if they were the number 4 seed, I mean, again, just depending on what seeding they were at, you're probably either facing Georgia in the playoffs or Georgia in the Natty, and I think that would even be a very competitive game.
If they would have been in, it would have been Bama versus Georgia and then Michigan versus Ohio State. That's what it would have been. And let's be honest, according to Fishing from the last show, they would have done that.
And he's correct.
But here's the thing: you cannot put a 2-loss team Alabama over a 1-loss Ohio State.
Yes, you can if you want TV ratings.
Can't.
Yes, you can.
No, you can't.
You can,
Yes,
and
you
you
can.
will if you're the committee. Yes, if you're the committee, you will.
He's absolutely correct because if anything, and I was even saying this, watch they're gonna try to like set up rig it to where it's the big game with Michigan and Ohio State. They're gonna try to set that up to be the Natty because that's what you had. You had Ohio State versus Georgia, Michigan versus TCU. So 100% they would absolutely set that up because you can also argue, Michigan, they don't have McNamara now. McCarthy's injured. So, even though Alabama's a 2-loss, they've got the better pieces, especially since, your starting quarterback. Condoleezza Rice is going to find a way to maneuver this whole thing around, all right? Like,
She needs to go. She needs
I know
to
we
go.
keep saying Condoleezza Rice, but I don't know if she's actually on the committee anymore. We might be throwing darts her way that might not be warranted.
Hey. Even if she's not.
It's a funny
Even if
name.
she's not, the meme shall still
Yeah, it is
prevail.
still funny that she was even allowed to vote on college football at all.
She still has her influences. With
Hey,
her.
do you know how many people are over the college football committee?
I know it's up there a little bit.
We wanted a playoff so bad with a
Does anybody
committee,
know?
and then now we
Y'all
don't
know?
want it. We want the
Isn't it
computers.
like 8?
No.
You talk about how many people that
I
are
might
actually
even be
part of
wrong,
it?
but I think it's 13. But it's 13 and it's ADs of certain schools.
I know it's they
They're
just-
ADs.
It was the
Nah,
current AD of Oregon like 3 years ago where you had to come out the room when they were voting where they should place Oregon. He had no vote in that. I remember that. That was weird.
Nah, it should be teams like people from the Sun Belt. Let's be honest, because that'll be the non-biased.
No,
Like,
no.
The best ADs of college football don't work in the Sun Belt.
I know.
The best candidates should be coaches, former coaches, and former assistant directors that have had jobs at 3 or
let's get
more
Coach
schools.
JB to decide the playoffs.
Yes,
At 3 or more schools, that way you know that they have no bias.
that's not named Urban Meyer because he'll find a way to put Florida and
Oh
Ohio
God!
State
Stop
in
it.
Oh God.
Wow.